Today's guest, we have Jim and Judy Boen. The Boens started working for NASA in the first part of their lives. They became part of the race for space and the moon. And then in the second half, they moved to St. Louis, raised two girls, and started something about Willie McGee's cookies and have Christian family days, and somehow become so special to Albert that he flies them to his 40th birthday. So what an amazing life, and we want to dig into that a little bit and get to know them and their testimony of how God interwoven all this to his glory. And that being said, let's start with a little bit of NASA. So, and a little bit about your backgrounds. Let's start with your backgrounds. Where were you guys each from? So,
I'm from North County, graduated from Normandy High School.
Normandy High School, okay. How about you, Jim?
I'm from Wildwood, Florida. Played basketball down there, and I was a three-letter sportsman: basketball, football, and baseball.
Well, there you go. And if I remember, I did not hear you say that your team actually played on a dirt ground or court one time. So
that's awesome.
Not quite. It was asphalt.
Okay.
And we all wore knee pads because we was always playing hard and jumping on the ball and jumping on our knees. And
okay.
Was that a court that you regularly played at, or was that out of desperation one day?
No, that was what all our county could afford.
Asphalt. That's
right.
No crying on the court, right?
No, no.
That's okay, awesome. And then so Jim, what got you to NASA? What was the journey there? So,
well, in 1960, my dad developed cancer, and I approached Judy and said, we got to go to Florida. And I had no job down there, but and I was working with McDonnell Douglas, and McDonnell Douglas had a plant down there in Titusville with the TOW missile. And my qualifications didn't suit in for what they had at that time, so I applied at NASA, and NASA hired me on.
Gotcha. Now, did you know Judy before going back down there to work?
Oh, yes. We were married 2 years before that, and we lived over in Cool Valley and traveled back and forth from getting up early in the morning. I was at work at 6:30 in the morning. She got to work at 7:30, I think it was. And I would make my rounds down on the F4. I was in the forward section.
Wow.
I was liaison engineer. And after making my rounds, I'd make it to the bathroom. And in that trip, I would also travel by her desk, and underneath her plastic cover was every baseball player that you could imagine.
Oh, so she was a baseball girl from the start, hey?
To death do us part.
So how did you guys meet?
Well, like I said, I went to the bathroom, and the cooler was right along the way there, and one day we both collided at the same spot.
Ironically, you just kind of set it up that way, making sure you'd happen.
Right.
Maybe went a little bit slower as that hot girl was showing up to the cooler.
Perhaps.
Hey, I got a question. When you think of NASA today, you think of space race, Mars, all these things. What was the thought of NASA in 1960? I mean, this NASA's still pretty new. Like growing up, do kids think of space? I don't know. I didn't live that time. I don't know. Like I imagine kids now grow up, they think they can be astronauts, they can be this, they can be that. It's just interesting to think that you got into NASA that long ago. What was the thinking of NASA back then? Like, did you know what you were getting into? Did you have any thoughts? Was it like prestigious? Was it, what was it like thinking of NASA back then?
Even though I came from Central Florida, which is 100 miles from Titusville, where the space industry is over around Merritt Island, I had very little information about it. I did go to Parks College across in Cahokia, Illinois, and had a little bit of association there with pilots, for future pilots of the Air Force that wanted to get into the Air Force and the Marines and so forth, Navy. And I associated myself with them, and I became a mechanical engineer.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it was more spacecraft, that kind of thing, like tangible things, not like a big idea that we're going to do this kind of thing.
Well, their goal was always to go to the moon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So you guys go down there. You start working for NASA,
Well,
and then who gets the job first? You?
Yes, I get the job first. Go down there as I hired on as a GS5, but once I got down there, they bumped me up to GS7, which was a considerable raise at the time because it was kind of tough to get going and getting a place to live. And a newlywed, we'd only been married a year, and pick her up and take her down to Florida to meet my needs of family and my dad's health and so forth.
Awesome. Now, Judy, you start working there, right? And did you immediately become a secretary? Is that where your job was?
no, I came down from St. Louis, and then I worked at, I took typing tests. I was in the typing pool,
Okay.
and they sent me all over place. And one day the girl came to me and she said, Judy, we've had gals go work in the astronaut office. They don't like the gal that works there, Lola. She's been there forever. And they come home within 6 weeks, come back here. I said, okay. I walk into the astronaut office. I could not believe it. There's that Shepard and Slayton and all the guys I'd seen on TV come back in the space program.
Yeah, they were all there, hey?
They were all there.
That's cool.
And my heart thought, what in the world's a girl like me doing in a place like this?
That's awesome. But you got to know each one of these people over time, right?
Oh, yeah, they were in my office, sure.
Yeah.
I did things for them, and we were friends that way.
So initially, Shepard would have been one of the first ones, right?
Yeah.
So how was that? How was he? Was he fun to work with? Was he serious? Was he goofy? What was the atmosphere around with that crew?
He was, the temperament, he was a choleric. He very strange, everything was by the book. But I think it'd be fun. So it was both of those together.
Okay. Anybody else from that period that kind of sticks out? From that first crew that you kind of walk into the office, or Shepard? Who else was there?
Cooper.
Was he fun?
And he's got quiet.
And they were all there. Is that where what did the astronauts do within that building other than, I would imagine they trained, they kept up on their rest, those type of things?
Yeah, that was strictly secretarial work in that office. They had their place there.
Okay.
But they went to other buildings for their training.
Okay.
Out of the pad and so forth.
So that was just day in and day out for them. Just train.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so they probably just had like a desk, a phone, and they would do some paperwork and
Sure.
stuff like that around there, scheduling anytime. So,
Jim, I got a question. You mentioned GS5 and GS7. For those of us who don't know what that is, what is a GS5? What is that? A clearance? Is that a type of understanding of the equipment you're working with?
It's sort of your ability level of what you're capable of doing and what you can contribute.
Okay.
And as you go up 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15,
Yeah.
and then you get into the super grades of special significance of where you're super grades.
Yeah. Different materials like alloys and stuff.
Well, as an engineer, you're familiar with all of them, but
Yeah.
some of them you're more familiar with others than you are.
Okay. And is that to climb those ranks? Is there testing involved, or is it just someone that notices that you're being more proficient, you're being more understanding of what you're doing?
Well, the more dedication and discipline you have, the more you're going to achieve in life.
Right.
And it's the same way with engineering. You've been trained for many skills in engineering across the board, but as you learn and dig into it, you
Yeah.
learn more and you apply yourself more, and the more you can contribute is recognized, and their
Okay.
dedication has a lot to do with it.
Okay. All right. That's interesting.
I was a lowly GS3.
You were GS or TS? GS3. Okay.
GS3.
That's better than 1. Do they go into negatives? Like you're on the fence? Like
That'd be
No,
us, Scott. Scott, we'd be a negative.
that's funny.
So, no. So now I got a question for you because he's been in the news the last few days because he just got married at 93. Buzz Aldrin. What do you think of that guy?
he was a sweetheart. You saw the picture of me with I can't think of his name.
Was it another astronaut?
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know.
Lovell, with Jim Lovell. So I knew him pretty good. So he was very industrious. He came back and talked in St. Louis about 2 years ago. Very intellectual, and he was just a great guy.
He had to be a little bit ambitious because he set some records as an astronaut. I remember reading about him. He went to space 4 times, I think was a record.
Went to the moon.
Went to the moon. He was on the shuttle that was had some problems, and they had to circle the moon twice, I think, before they could get off the circuit around the moon. I think I remember reading that. So he had to be ambitious, I imagine, because after all that, he kept going back up there.
Yeah.
Oh, they all were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was their goal, to go to the moon, and they worked hard at that.
They loved it, hey?
Oh, yeah.
Now you served underneath both Gemini and the Apollo missions, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, what for those who may not know a little bit about the Gemini versus the Apollo missions, what was the big difference?
Well, Mercury was 1 astronaut. Gemini was 2. Apollo was 3 astronauts went up at the same time.
And Apollo is what got us to the moon. So Gemini is what got us kind of around space, right? We started orbiting a little bit with that one, if I remember right.
And the first one was suborbital, where it went up and just came down.
Yeah, just trying to get up in outer space and prove that we could get there. So, very interesting. That. So now, just your thoughts, because obviously we've been to the moon. Elon Musk right now is trying to go back to the moon, and then he wants to go to Mars. What do you think of that? Isn't that interesting?
Cool, yeah. I would go.
Sign her up.
Sign me up.
I'll go with you. I'll go with you.
You would go?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay, Scott's going.
Yep.
You gotta have 3.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other volunteers?
Maybe they'll make the price of admission one of those cool ties you made. So
Yes.
now you made hand ties for most of these astronauts, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
But just for the 3, it was for their flight. John Young was one of my favorite. He was a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun. He's the one that took a sandwich from one of the local restaurants and took it in space.
Oh wow.
Oh, the food was awful. I don't know how they ate that food.
They probably noticed too with the weight difference.
But yeah.
They probably
But
said,
he had that in his pocket and he pulled out and went everywhere.
all the crumbs.
All over the spacecraft.
Oh, that's
He
hilarious.
got a little bit of trouble for that one.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah. So it's good to know that those guys are a little ornery every now and then too.
Oh,
Hey.
yeah. We used to get a phone call and say, tell Grissom to quit driving his car around the space pad because going too fast is his thing.
Now, I know another guy you liked a lot because you've had a few articles about him is Jim Lovell. What
Right.
do you think of Jim?
Oh, he's a doll. He was always so friendly and nice to me. He was great.
Did you make a tie for Jim? Do you remember?
No, he
No.
wasn't in that flight.
Okay.
No.
Do you remember the colors of the ties? Was it one big color, or did you do any
No, I had
designs?
pictures of the astronauts.
Oh.
They would eat. I saw the fabric. I thought, I'll make those and send it to them. And they wrote me back and said they were really nice. So
That's cool.
Well, if anybody wants to see those, I did put up on our website a view of all your personal items that we took pictures of. So they can go out there, we put some music behind it, and those ties are included. So they can see those ties if they're interested. Just go out to our Triple Play YouTube or Rumble site and check that out. There's about a 10-minute clip of like almost 300 pictures of all the various things from your passes to your hard hats to some of the cool Gemini and Mercury paperwork, pictures. So if anybody wants to see what the launches kind of look like or what the astronauts look like at that time, you had them. So
And some food in the packages and how they suck the food out after they've put water in to it and let it sit for about 5 minutes and then they
suck up that
Rehydrates.
they
Yeah.
were working with their hands to that put in the spacecraft. It was all lined with Velcro. Velcro came from the space program.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yep, they came from the space program. And they would stick it up on there and work on whatever they were doing and then take it down, cut it right here, and slurp it. That's where Slurpees came from.
Really?
Yeah.
So before
How they
NASA, there was no
do dinner.
Slurpees. No Slurpees before NASA.
I don't,
There you go.
I don't know.
7-Eleven has a lot to thank to NASA for.
Yeah.
So we've gone over Buzz, we've gone over Lovell. Anybody else and Shepard? Anybody else that stood out during that time that you really thought was cool? How about anybody that was a little more ornery than others? Maybe.
Oh, how about Conrad? Pete Conrad was a character. And he'd get phone calls from home. Your kid jumped off the roof. He sounds like you, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd say, your kid jumped off the roof. What? But he was full of it.
Yeah.
He was full of it. Hey, that's great. That's great. Jim, did you get the chance to meet any of the astronauts when you were working on them?
Yes, Judy invited me to go to one of the, what was it, a dance or a
Yeah.
dinner?
Right there.
And I met several of them, and John Young was one of the ones that I recall meeting.
Well, fun.
So they were great.
You just got them to space. They just got to have all the fun, right? So you did all the hard work getting them there?
Well, I was out on the launcher and did a lot of the things that made it all possible for the astronaut to go up.
There you go. Yeah, well, it takes a lot of people to do that, right?
Oh.
So,
Manny,
yeah.
all the way from St. Louis. 2 of the astronauts came back to see their spacecraft, and they went into the side of the building right where it was and were killed, 2 of them,
Really?
during the time of doing the space program.
Now, if I remember, you've got a story about something like that happening that kind of led to you really becoming bold about your faith, which I think plays into the second part of your life with Christian Family Day to some degree. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because I've heard bits and pieces of this, but why don't you share that a little bit?
Okay. I really had a hard time sharing my faith. But one night, it was on a Wednesday evening, Chaffee came into the office. There where they slept, and it was connected to our office, so they could come in. And he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm typing my minutes for my husband. He's chairman of evangelism at our church. And he said, "Oh, what church do you go to?" I said, "The Methodist." He said, "I go to the Presbyterian church." Well, that's as far as our talk went about the spiritual things. And he finished up what he was doing. I finished up typing. Went home Wednesday night. Friday, they were all ready to go to the spacecraft to try it out, and it was a hard time for me. But anyway, they went to the spacecraft, and that's when the fire broke out, and 3 astronauts died on the spacecraft on the ground. And oh, it hit me. Judy Boen, God knew that Chappie was going to be dead in a couple of days. And you didn't share your faith with him. All you talked about was what church you went to. And church doesn't save anybody. It's the Christian experience of having Jesus in your life. So I thought, oh man, I better. So we got through all the funerals and everything. And the doorbell rang one night. Gal came by and she was selling Avon, but she also shared her faith. She had a little book called Four Spiritual Laws.
Yeah, I remember that book.
Remember the book?
Yeah, I remember that.
And she had the Four Spiritual Laws, and she asked me if I had Jesus in my life, and she showed me how I could have him in my heart. I said, "He's in my heart, but I don't know how to share him." And she said, "Come to my church." It was a good old Baptist church. "Come to my church, and my pastor will show you how to share your faith." So he took me out with him when he went to share his faith. And then he threw me to the wolves. He said, "Judy, give your testimony." I said, "Oh my goodness." So I gave my testimony to the man. And he prayed to become a Christian that night. Yeah, it was really cool.
That's awesome.
And I thought, this is what I have to do. And it's so easy with this little booklet, reading it and emphasizing things in it. So that's what we learned to do. We came back to St. Louis, and we went all over St. Louis to churches, teaching them how to share their faith. In our own church, we got thrown out because they didn't want us to say any more about sharing our faith. So we saw Ellisville Baptist. We went to church there. Went to church there, and it was able to share my faith. I taught them how to share their faith, and it was really fun. Once I learned how to do that and be bold and be strong for the Lord that God is with me, I learned that, and it made all the difference in the world.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That's awesome. And so that became a motivating factor, really, that fueled the rest of your life to some degree.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I would definitely. My experience with you for the last 20 years has been one of the most fearless people I know coming to share their faith. Everywhere we would go, especially back during the Christian Family days, I mean, you and Joe, we would go all over the place. I'd be laughing so hard my belly would hurt, and you guys would be out sharing your faith, like Laverne and Shirley. So,
well, when I started Christian Family Day, I called the Cardinals, and they said, "We've never heard of anything with baseball and Christian." And I tried to explain to them what I was doing. So they said, "Come on down, we'll talk to you about it." So Joe Beeman, who was my motivator and friend, she raised all my money, thousands of dollars she raised. We brought kids in to see the game. We had to buy their tickets to the Cardinals. Anyway, we went
Yeah,
down.
I mean, that was part of the goal, right, of Christian Family Day was, at least from when I was part of it, you guys saw it as a chance to have Christians share their faith after the game. But part of it was also the experience of bringing underprivileged kids who maybe wouldn't necessarily be able to afford a ticket to the ball game, have an opportunity to come down and enjoy a ball game and then hear some of their heroes on the field after the game share their faith. And if I understood things right, that's how I understood it.
Yes.
Yeah, do you remember how many? I know your last year we had quite a few. Do you remember how many we had that year of the kids?
We brought 3,000 kids. We started with 50 kids and got up to 3,000 as kids that were in the neighborhood that were just never, ever have a chance to.
Yeah, they used different nonprofit organizations all over St. Louis, from Camp Pennywell to whatever. I remember there was a lot of the different ones from poverty or low-income areas that gave kids a chance to come to the ball game, and that was what a cool thing. I mean, what kid doesn't want to go see a Cardinal game, right? Especially in the St. Louis area.
Yeah, that's for sure. When I went down to the Cardinals to talk to them, they still didn't understand what we were going to do. And I said, the players have a platform. People listen to them so they can share their faith. And we got a lot of Christians on our team. Well, at that moment, in walks Marty Hendon.
Oh, I love Marty. Marty, I'll never forget him, and he was so funny. He would always say Judeo-Christian Day. That was why I always loved him. He would always say, big old Marty would come rolling in, Judeo-Christian Day. And, they still have at Busch Stadium, underneath the stadium back at that back part, his whole collection of Cardinal memorabilia that he had in his office. And it's encased. They have a case for it that is encased. So,
well, when he walked in and said, "Oh, well, that's good. Go ahead. Come into my office and we'll talk about it." Well, the workers are looked because he never let anybody in his office unless they were important, like a ball player or whatever. And they could not believe we were going to go to his office. He took us to the office and was thrilled with what we were doing. He started a Jewish day there as well from what we did.
yeah.
So, but he said, "You Christians want more tickets."
Hey, real quickly, what year would that have been? Just so we get people.
She graduated from high school in 1990. So it'd be 1990.
1990s when you started Christian Family Day? Okay. So I want to go back to that, but I do want to finish up talking a little bit more about NASA because, I know we have a lot of people who will listen in on that part and kind of identify with that. And we still haven't gotten you back to St. Louis, right? We have to get you back here. So and when we're down here, you get to go through this program. What was the last ship that you were around for as the secretary and you on the pad? What was it? The space shuttle?
Well, I guess, yeah, it was Apollo. He worked. Did you work on Apollo? He worked on Apollo.
So Apollo was one of the last Apollo missions, probably? Okay. Yeah. And I know you went back down for a space shuttle one, right? So did you guys go see the shuttle launch?
Not that I remember.
No? Okay. All right.
No.
So how many years altogether down in Florida?
4 years.
I
They
was homesick for my Cardinals and my family.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, you can speak.
To give you a little side note, on pad 34 was the pad that the 3 astronauts perished in. I happened to be out on the pad that day and up at that level, and I walked around the Apollo spacecraft, not knowing what was going to be occurring in less than 2 hours.
Wow.
I went home, and Judy and I were having a meal together, and we heard the news. And
do you remember what caused that?
Well,
if you remember,
the speculation was that there was another failure on the of the system that they were going through and the checklist and so forth. And the speculation is that Grissom got a little bit angry, because he was a kind of a hothead, and he would say, "This lemon is." Just before that, they'd hung a lemon on it, a plastic lemon, showing what it was, because the original spacecrafts, 1 and 2, the Gemini and so forth, were made by McDonnell Douglas. Well, they had all the technology, and the low bidder came in, which is North American. North American had to go through a huge learning curve, and they wound up hiring a lot of McDonnell Douglas employees to help them get to where they were. And it was a problem, and they figured that one of the astronauts, more likely was Grissom, kicked a circuit board, and the circuit board sparked, and it was in a pure oxygen environment of which they were in. And as that spark went, so did just an instant fireball.
I've never. I mean, I've enjoyed space since I was a kid. Spaceship, what kid doesn't? I've never seen video of that. There's got to be video of that, right?
Oh. In my mind, you can hear him say, "Help! Get us out of here! Get us out of here!"
Yeah.
And they had the top of the spacecraft. They had to do it inside and outside, and it was not done, and they died before them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I
Wow.
said it was level we listened to. I got so tired listening to that. But it just dug in your heart, get us out of here. And White was a wonderful Christian. He shared his faith with me, and he was wonderful. And the pastor said that Chaffee was a Christian. I don't know about Grissom, but it was his. I think we listened to it, and I think he kicked the wire and started the fire.
Yeah.
Now, before we kind of shift to coming back to St. Louis, I know you got these charms you brought in. Tell us a little bit about these. So,
well, one day they
want to hold them? Yeah.
Yeah, they came to me and said, "Judy, the astronauts have what they call a pilot preference kit, and in the kit they put things for their family and their friends, and we want to put this charm off your bracelet." I wore this all the time. Put charm off your bracelet on the spacecraft, and it'll fly with everything else, and we'll give it back to you. I was in shock. I couldn't believe it.
That's a great honor, huh?
Why, yeah.
Yeah.
Flying the spacecraft.
So that charm's been to space and back.
That's into space. And then they came to me on Gemini 9 and said, "Give us another one. We'll put it on there for you." And so another one.
Can I see that one?
Yeah, flew on the spacecraft. And then on Gemini 11, they said, "We're putting flags on there." So this flag flew on.
That's really cool.
Flag flew on the spaceship on Gemini 11.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So we got several that went up into Gemini. That is really, that is unique, fun. Not too many people can say that they have an object that made it to outer space and back, right?
Isn't it true? I was shocked.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was shocked.
So, one last little thing. So, when you guys heard like Kennedy say we're going to go to the moon and all these great speeches back then, was that a motivator for you guys too in the NASA program? Was that always in the back of the mind that you had
I
to?
gave them the oath to do it when the president said we're going to the moon. Yes, that's what we need. But they got really excited.
Yeah. And what happened? How did you guys feel when we made it to the moon? What was that like?
Oh,
What was the experience with somebody? Oh yeah, Apollo 9. That is cool.
that was amazing. Just to hear them, and we listened like on these things. You could hear them talking and all that, and just the fun things that they had and what they found, and they brought back rocks.
Did you see any of that?
Yeah.
So in your mind, just because there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there, they went to the moon and back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just want to make sure that's clear. You were the secretary. If there was a conspiracy going around, you would probably know about it because you were around all these men. And it's safe to say that NASA didn't have a secret place where they recorded on a film thing of this whole NASA thing, but they actually went to the moon, went up to outer space. You built the rockets. You saw them go there. So, sorry, conspiracy theorists, but just to put it clearly, we did go to the moon and back.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. And so that'd be really cool. What was it like for you too to be a part of that? I mean, obviously you got to help build these ships and be a part of this whole thing going on. Was seeing them go to the moon unique? I mean, what was the feeling behind your experience?
Well, I had the pleasure and the experience of doing a lot of firsts. One of the first things I did was travel down the canal leading to Cape Kennedy with the Saturn II booster rocket, which was about I reckon 120 feet long and about 90 feet in diameter section of the spacecraft. And the next big first that I got to do was travel to the launch pad from the VAB on the mobile launcher. Mobile launcher is capable of 2 miles an hour. But we were going along at 0.8 of a mile an hour because
They were trying to save fuel.
no, we were just trying to make sure we kept everything level and didn't fall over with the rocket up above us.
That is crazy. So in all that, what was it like to hear the astronauts finally make it to the moon? Was that pretty cool?
Oh, it was thrilling. We did that in St. Louis when we came back. We left right before the launch of the launch to the moon. Judy had to get back to see her Cardinals and to be with her parents. I was thrilled that she had allowed me to go down and be with my dad in his passing, and it was just a team effort. We each of us had a small part.
Yeah.
It does. One man doesn't do it all. It takes a multitude of men working together.
Well said. I mean, that's like sports, right? I mean, a single ball player on a team. We've seen superstars be on teams that don't win anything other than his stats, and we see teams built with great players that go on and win, and maybe not one of them is really the superstar. Kind of seeing that right now in football. I was reading a stat the other day that of our 4 teams in the final, the only one of them was in the top 5 paid quarterbacks. So, and that's Mahomes. So, you never, it is definitely, sports are team effort. When you accomplish great things, it's almost always a great effort by those around and underneath those who usually get credit. So that's great. So now, have your girls come along? When you come back to St. Louis, do you guys have kids yet?
Yes, we had Angela in Florida.
Okay, so you come back, and we've got one kid now that you're bringing back with you, and then you guys would have your second one just a little while after then, I would assume?
5 years.
Wow,
I
okay.
had 5 miscarriages.
Wow.
So I worked hard getting her here.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Christy's watching in right now and listening to all this herself. So I'm sure she's heard these stories a million times, but we're appreciative of her sharing you guys today and allowing us to hear this a little bit. So we're through the NASA program, some of these great men and all that. Now we're back in St. Louis and we're working. And then you start Christian Family Day. Was there anything that happened baseball-wise before Christian Family Day?
Well, can we get to the origin story? Because when we were speaking earlier before we were on air, you had mentioned "Till Death Do Us Part" when we mentioned baseball, and that signifies that you love baseball.
I love it.
Yeah. So let's get
All
to
sports.
why is that?
I wanted to be a sports writer when I was in high school, and I went down to the Post-Dispatch and talked to Bob Bragg, and he said, "Girls don't belong in a sport. Go home and be a wife and a mother."
He was that direct.
Oh yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. Well, I was with Jake Buck, and he said, "Anybody that wears a bow tie all year round," I believe he said that. That was.
And that was you. You wore a bow tie.
No, that was
Just
that was Bob Bragg.
yeah.
But he was a great writer, but he had that feeling that girls didn't belong in sports. So I went home and had her, and she played softball, and
Won a few championships, right? She went on to play for Mizzou
yeah,
and did very, very well for girls softball, almost as far as you can go other than the Olympics. You weren't on the Olympics, were you, Christy? Okay.
that was her
So-
goal, was to go to the Olympics.
Yeah, just short a little bit of that, but I mean, Mizzou did really well at Mizzou. And so yeah, that's quite the accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
So, and along the way, so how did you come up with the idea of Christian Family Day?
I was in my kitchen working. All of a sudden, the idea came to me. Like I said, all players had a platform. People would listen when they spoke.
Absolutely.
And so I thought, I want to do this. And I put it all together in my head, but it was nothing like what it finally ended up being. But just I had an idea. I had campus crusade. We'd gone to conferences, so I kind of had that background to know what to do. So that's how it got
So
started.
you go down there, Marty's all on board. You guys start Christian
Yeah.
Family Day. Now, that was 1990. Did you know Willie McGee before then?
No,
So that's about the time you would have met Willie McGee. Now, how did you guys meet Willie McGee? What's the story behind that?
how did we meet Willie? Well, Christy would go down. We were at spring training,
Okay.
and we go to spring training every year. And Greg Matthews, who was a pitcher for the Cardinals,
Yeah, we know Greg.
Great.
Yeah.
Greg,
Yeah.
well, he, Christy babysat for him. His kids listen to him. Unlike you, Scott, the poor kid came home crying because she couldn't take care of
I got bad hearing.
Andy Vance likes kids. But she babysat by his kids. And Greg, we went to spring training, and Jim asked Greg for a ball glove because he needed a new one for the year. And players all got new ones beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So he said, I'll check. So he looked all around, and Willie McGee said, I have this ball glove. I used it during the 87 World Series.
Wow.
And if she uses it, I just put it up on her shelf. I'll give it to her.
So do you want to be using this, Christy?
I did.
Oh, wow.
She wore it
Wow.
out. She wore it out.
I bet.
And then
87 World Series. Come on. That is amazing. So
you
want
what, honey?
I won a state championship.
state championship with it. There you
Dual
go.
purpose.
Yeah. So Willie, if you're listening, there you go, my friend.
Your
That
glove was
glove
used
got
well.
yeah. That's the way you want it.
He gave her the glove. And she said, Mom, we got to do something to thank Willie. And I thought, I'll get this great cookie recipe.
Ooh.
I'll make them. And
Yeah, I actually had a.
I don't know if we can get a close up of this.
Yeah. So we got Willie McGee cookies comes out. So go ahead and tell us a story. So you make Willie McGee cookies
I
and
make
thank them.
these chocolate chip cookies. Christy takes them down to Willie. I asked Greg later, I said, Greg, did he like the cookies? Like them, he wouldn't even share them with anybody. He sat there and ate the whole bag, the whole thing that I brought down there. He wouldn't share.
That's awesome.
So every time she'd see him, I got pictures of him. Boy, Christy, getting those cookies.
Yeah.
Every time we went to the game, we had to take cookies down to Willie. So from that, Willie said one day, I want to market those cookies. I want to sell them.
Now, as far as I know, Willie McGee never did anything like that. He was pretty private, he wasn't really into marketing or anything, but he must have really liked those cookies.
Can I read the back of the box?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. In 1988, and this is the story that you just divulged, a teammate of mine asked me for a glove for an exceptional high school athlete named Christy. I gave her my 1987 World Series glove, and out of gratitude, she baked me some cookies. Little did she know how much I loved cookies, and these were delicious. My teammates always wanted some, but they were too good to share. After years of keeping these cookies to myself, I decided to share them with you. I hope you'll enjoy these cookies as much as I do. Willie McGee, signed on every box.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so they're chocolate chip pecan cookies.
Yeah.
Is this an original recipe? Is this
Jim-
box?
Jim brought it home from work,
Okay.
and they're wonderful. I'll have to make you some, Scott.
Please do.
They are, yeah.
They look good.
I'll make you some.
Now, I'll have to say this. If you make him some, you got
I'll
to...
make you some too.
I was going to say, I had those one time when I first started working for Christian Family Day. You brought me some right to this office, and I was so thrilled. They were amazing. And I didn't share them with anybody else either. So there you go.
You got a middle name Willie.
There you go.
But every time we see Willie, even now, we took some down to him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool.
But now he's got diabetes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we had anything to do with
Quit bringing them cookies.
bringing the poor guy cookies.
Well, and so that shows, I mean, here's Willie McGee, early 90s, and all the way to now, you guys remain friends. And that's awesome. So yeah, what you got?
These boxes are in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome. There's something more unique about it.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Well, Scotty, since my mic might be on or off,
Yeah.
why don't you send us off?
Okay. I don't know what I'm doing, but Judy, Jim, thank you for being here. We probably scratched the surface of your whole life, and
Aw.
yeah, just barely scratched the surface, and that it was unbelievable to hear your stories, where you've come from, how God's used you, how you've responded to things that God wants you to do, and a life continuing to live well. And I want in the future to get more from. I want to hear more. I want to hear all about your lives.
Oh,
you know.
the little kids that make Christy cry.
Yeah. It was a joint effort. My brother was a participant as well, right?
Yes.
It wasn't just me. I didn't cause all the problems. But thank you for being here. Thank you. I know it's tough to sit and talk for hours on
golly,
end.
thank you for caring.
Yeah.
Thank you for caring.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, check us out on Triple Play, and we're on every medium of media out there now. So whether you're listening or you're watching, we appreciate the support.